There's an old saying that life truly begins the second time around, the moment a man realizes he's only got one shot at it. For Derek Bieri of Vice Grip Garage, that second chapter arrived carrying heavy costs, painful setbacks, and a quiet heartbreak few people ever saw coming. From working completely alone in freezing barns to waking up one day and finding his tools stolen, Derek's path was never built on horsepower alone. So what really happened to him? Why did the videos suddenly become shorter? And why did he slowly fade from our screens? Stay with me, we're about to uncover the deeply emotional story behind the man who almost lost himself while chasing his dream, where it all began long before the world knew his name, long before cameras rolled and dead engines roared back to life. Derek Bieri was just a small boy growing up in Minot, North Dakota, buried deep in the wide, silent heart of the American Midwest. There were no city lights, no crowded streets, no YouTube subscribers waiting for his next upload. There were only endless frozen fields, skies so big they swallowed the horizon, and a quiet kid learning, one broken piece at a time, how to hold life together. Minot wasn't the kind of place that produced celebrities or overnight success stories. Instead, it forged something far more lasting: resilience, grit, and people who worked with their hands, repaired what they owned, and kept their heads down through every hardship. Derek's childhood had no video games, no malls, no constant noise. What it did have was the metallic clink of tools in a freezing barn, the groan of ancient machinery waking up, and the low howl of winter wind slipping under cracked doorframes. Born on May 16, 1964, he grew up in a world where nothing was given freely and nobody was coming to rescue you. If something broke, you fixed it. If you couldn't fix it, you figured out how to live without it. That wasn't just advice, it was survival. Even as a young boy, Derek was drawn to anything with wheels, gears, or oil. While other kids played catch or chased each other through fields, he was fascinated by the rust-covered machines sitting forgotten around the family land. But it wasn't just curiosity. On a farm, vehicles weren't toys or weekend hobbies, they were lifelines. Every chore depended on an engine that actually ran. Every tractor had to pull. Every truck had to haul. So Derek watched, wide-eyed and silent, as his family breathed life back into those machines. Slowly he learned, duct tape can buy you time, oil-stained fingers are a badge of effort, not shame, and sometimes the only warmth on a bitter morning comes from the low rumble of an engine finally catching fire. His father wasn't a big talker. But every bolt they turned together spoke louder than words ever could. Derek learned to hear his dad's breath change when he leaned over a stubborn engine. He watched his mom stretch meals across days, make do with almost nothing, and never once complain about the weight she carried. They didn't waste time talking about hard times, there wasn't time. There was only time to push through. Without even realizing it, Derek soaked up every unspoken lesson: how to work with tired hands, how to make something out of nothing, how to keep moving forward even when nothing made sense. There is a special kind of silence that exists only on farmland. It isn't peaceful, it's heavy. It settles into your bones and stays with you long after dark. Derek felt that silence more than most. It wrapped around him when chores were done, when the horizon melted into dusk, when the world went still. No neighborhood kids, no surprise friends dropping by, no after-school hangouts. Just distance, fields, machinery, animals, and the quiet questions that came late at night and never quite found answers. That quiet ache became part of him. He didn't have a name for it back then, but it left marks on the man he was becoming. While other boys built friendships in town, Derek found companionship in machines. While others played games, he studied rusted engines. Where others looked for conversation, he found understanding in motion. Machines didn't judge. They didn't leave. They didn't ask anything of him. They simply waited. And Derek showed up, again and again. That in mine its self-reliance wasn't praised, it was expected. Derek didn't grow up asking for help. He learned by doing, figuring out why the well stopped working, crawling under a stalled truck, grabbing a crowbar, and prying open a frozen door. In those moments he realized that sometimes something doesn't need to be replaced, it just needs skilled hands to bring it back. That he learned how to combine mismatched parts into something that worked. He learned how to build solutions out of scrap. And because of that, he found pride in every dirty, thankless job no one else wanted. Being raised around machines older than you leaves an emotional imprint. Derek saw it every day: tractors that had outlived their first owners, trucks handed down through generations, cars parked and forgotten but never truly abandoned. Those machines carried stories in their silence. Even when Derek was too young to fully understand, he could feel their weight. Every sun-bleached seat, every cracked dashboard, every glove box stuffed with faded photos and old receipts, it all carried meaning. Those weren't just vehicles. They were memories. And Derek became the kind of boy who couldn't ignore memories, even when they came wrapped in rust. The emotional mark left by rural life was quiet but permanent. It didn't shout. It didn't demand attention. But it was always there. Derek learned early to hide what hurt. He learned that emotion had no place in the barn. He learned that grief wasn't something you shared, it was something you carried. So he carried it. And he kept moving. He kept working. He kept fixing. Because in the roar of impact wrenches and the rhythm of restoration, he could drown out the quiet sadness that always waited just beyond the tree line. In mine it dreams had to wait. No one handed you a spotlight. No one cleared a path. You earned every inch with sweat, showing up before sunrise, staying long after sunset, and refusing to quit when everything hurt. Derek earned everything the hard way. There were no shortcuts, no favors, no fast tracks. Just tools, time, and an unshakable belief that nothing was ever too far gone to save. Before Vice Grip Garage became a household name among gearheads, Derek Bieri was elbow deep in something broken, hoping it would come back to life. Long before anyone knew his name. Why Vice Grip Garage? Believe it or not, Derek didn't start Vice Grip Garage to become famous or chase a spot on some rich list. He started it because he had something real to give. Growing up he fixed old cars with whatever he had on hand. When he looked online he saw people showcasing expensive tools and perfect builds. But he knew most everyday people couldn't afford that life. Derek wanted to show something different, something honest. He wanted to prove that anyone could bring an old car back to life using basic tools, a little knowledge, and a lot of stubborn determination. That he named it Vice Grip Garage because the name said everything about his approach. Vice grips aren't the fanciest tools, but they get the job done. That's exactly what his builds were about. He wasn't chasing speed or showroom perfection. He was showing how to take something dead, neglected, or broken and breathe life back into it, even if the process was messy, imperfect, and unglamorous. His mission was simple: prove that people could do it themselves, no matter their budget, background, or experience level. At first his videos were raw and simple, just him working on cars. No fancy lighting, no cinematic angles, no overproduced edits. He focused on the build, not the show. He mixed real mechanical advice with real results. He laughed at his own mistakes, talked through every step, and taught as he went. He wasn't afraid to fail on camera, and that honesty made people connect with him instantly. It made the channel feel like walking into a real garage where anyone was welcome, but behind the scenes the pressure of being watched started to build. As the channel grew, so did the opinions. People had thoughts about how he worked, what tools he used, even the way he talked. Some viewers wanted flashier edits, others wanted perfection. Derek felt the tug to chase trends just to stay relevant, but he also knew that once he changed who he was for the views, he'd lose the very reason he started. So he fought to stay true. He refused to follow the crowd. He wouldn't fake drama or exaggerate repairs. He kept showing up with grease on his hands, doing things the hard way, because that's what he believed in. The pressure to entertain never went away, but Derek decided that teaching and truth mattered more. Vice Grip Garage became a place where mistakes were allowed, where trying was enough, where knowledge was shared freely instead of sold. Derek never wanted people to just watch him. He wanted them to learn, to try, to fix something themselves. That was his mission, and even today, that's still what drives him. Through everything, Derek kept his head down and his heart focused. He never forgot why he began. It was never about fame. It was about giving people confidence, proving that you don't need a big shop or big money to bring something old back to life. And of course, that dream came with a price few people ever saw, the toll of burnout and overcommitment. There was a time when Derek Bieri could barely feel his hands, not from turning wrenches or wrestling rusted bolts, but from everything that came after: filming, editing, uploading, responding, planning the next build. Vice Grip Garage grew fast, faster than anyone expected. And with that growth came a weight almost impossible to see from the outside. Derek was no longer just a guy fixing cars in his garage. He had become a one-man production team, a business owner, a spokesperson, and the caretaker of millions of expectations. Even when he was running on only a few hours of sleep, the camera rarely stopped rolling. Some nights he worked until sunrise, not because he wanted to, but because he felt he had to. People were waiting. Sponsors had deadlines. The algorithm rewarded consistency. If he slowed down, the numbers would drop, and everything he'd built could start to slip away. Bit by bit, that pressure began to grind him down. During some live streams, viewers noticed he looked exhausted. Even when he joked and smiled, his eyes were different. The spark that used to light up his face started to dim. In interviews, his voice would sometimes trail off mid-sentence. He'd pause, lost in thought for a moment, before forcing a laugh and brushing it off. But those quiet silences said more than any words ever could. Derek was physically and emotionally drained. Every build had a deadline. Behind every smile was pressure he didn't want to show. Sponsors wanted polished content. Fans wanted more personal stories. The platform demanded engagement, thumbnails, titles that trend. There was no pause button. There was no real break. Just one man trying to carry an entire growing empire on shoulders that were already breaking. His family saw it too. Days blurred into weeks without rest. Meals were skipped. Injuries were ignored. Sleep became something he chased between edits and comment replies. The thing he loved most, bringing cars back to life, slowly started feeling like a beautiful, powerful trap. It gave him purpose, but it quietly stole his peace. The hardest part was pretending everything was fine. Derek didn't want to let fans down. He didn't want to disappoint the people who believed in him. He didn't want to risk the sponsors who helped pay the bills. So he kept going, even when his body begged for rest and his heart begged for stillness. But burnout doesn't stay quiet. It shows in shaking hands after too many sleepless nights. It shows in a voice that trails off when passion starts turning into obligation. It steals joy and replaces it with bone-deep exhaustion. Derek kept filming. He kept fixing. He kept pushing. But somewhere in those late nights and endless drives, the real cost of overcommitment became impossible to hide. The toll was real, and it left deep marks. Family versus fame. Before Vice Grip Garage exploded online, Derek Bieri married his wife Jessica in 2008. Together they built a life centered on simplicity, hard work, and love. As their family grew, Derek's passion for resurrecting old cars and sharing the process online grew too. What started as a small YouTube channel quickly turned into a major brand, but behind the rising subscriber count and viral videos, a silent struggle was unfolding at home. Balancing family life with growing public attention is never easy. Derek's days were split between being present for his kids and feeding the content machine. The very success that let him provide for his family also threatened to pull him away from them. Once a private sanctuary of peace and closeness, his home slowly became the background for public curiosity. Through it all, Jessica stood strong beside him, steady and grounded. But protecting their children from the harsher side of the internet was a real, daily battle. Derek became increasingly protective. He limited how often his kids appeared on camera. He stopped mentioning their names. He drew a firm line, knowing the internet can be a double-edged sword. For every kind fan there might be someone who pushes too far, asks too much, or tries to invade what should stay sacred. Being a father under public scrutiny carries a heavy weight. Derek rarely speaks directly about that fear, but his actions speak louder than words. He chose to give his children the gift of a normal life, one not dictated by algorithms, comments, or the endless chase for views. Still, the quiet fears remain: missing bedtime stories, missing small everyday moments that never make it online, missing time with the people who matter most, time that slips away while you're building something for them. In many ways, Derek's greatest success isn't just the cars he revives, it's the family he fiercely protects. That choice to put family before fame may never go viral, but it matters more than anything else. From Minnesota to Tennessee, moving is never easy, especially when it means leaving behind the place that shaped you. Minnesota wasn't just where Derek Bieri was born. It was where Vice Grip Garage was born. It was where he learned to turn wrenches in sub-zero temperatures with numb fingers. The early videos, frozen starts, junkyard hunts, long nights in dark garages, all happened against that cold, quiet backdrop. But as life changed and the channel grew, the moment came to make an impossible decision: that he had to leave. The move to Tennessee was more than a change of address, it was a complete life reset. Derek and his family packed up everything and drove away from a state filled with milestones, memories, and miles of back roads lined with wrecked cars. The choice was heartbreaking. A huge portion of his collection, vehicles he had poured his heart and soul into, had to be sold. Cars that carried stories, builds that were never filmed. Letting them go felt like tearing pages out of a personal diary. Some sales were quiet, no big announcements, no emotional send-offs, just a handshake, a title transfer, and a heavy silence afterward. The old garage in Minnesota slowly emptied. The brutal winters were traded for Tennessee humidity. Familiar gravel roads gave way to new highways and unfamiliar landscapes. Everything felt different. Derek made the move for more than one reason. He wanted more space for his family. He wanted better year-round filming conditions. But most of all, he needed a fresh start. Tennessee offered warmer weather and more consistent working conditions, but that was only part of it. The deeper reason was family. The old setup had become too small. The pressure of creating content in a freezing climate was brutal. The burnout he had been silently fighting made it clear: something had to give. Still, the move carried grief. Minnesota was where his roots were, where his identity was formed. Driving away meant leaving behind the place that had shaped him. The weight of goodbye followed them every mile of the road to Tennessee. Starting over wasn't glamorous. It meant rebuilding, finding new suppliers, new routines, new people. There were days when the warmth of Tennessee couldn't replace the cold sting of memories left behind. Homesickness hit hard, but Derek pushed forward. He put down roots. He unpacked the boxes. He made new memories and new plans. The surroundings were different. The garage felt new. But the mission stayed the same. In Tennessee, Derek planted fresh roots. He traded nostalgia for possibility. He brought his family with him, holding on to their support like a lifeline. And though he left Minnesota behind, he carried its lessons, its grit, and its stories in every bolt he turned. The journey hurt, but it was necessary. Because sometimes to grow, you have to let go of what once held you. And Derek had to live that truth to keep Vice Grip Garage alive and growing. Tool theft and the breach of trust. For Derek Bieri, tools are never just tools. They are extensions of his hands, quiet partners in every story he tells, living pieces of his craft. Every wrench, every socket, every specialty piece carries memory, purpose, and history. So when a theft happened on his property, it wasn't just about losing equipment. It was a deep emotional wound, a violation of the one place he had spent years building into a sanctuary. It happened not long after Derek and his family moved to Tennessee. The new garage was still being organized. The move itself had been massive. He was unpacking decades of tools, rare parts, and equipment, many pieces dating back to his earliest days in Minnesota. One morning something felt wrong. A welder cable was missing. Several drawers in his tool chest were left open. When he looked closer, he realized the truth. Someone had come onto his property, entered his workspace, and taken things that didn't belong to them. His first reaction was disbelief. Had something been misplaced during the move? Could a friend or helper have accidentally taken something? But the more he inventoried, the clearer it became. Items were gone, deliberately taken. Among the stolen tools, a vintage snap-on torque wrench, several sockets, even a brand new Holley carburetor. Derek didn't explode online. He didn't point fingers or rage. Instead, true to form, he spoke plainly and honestly, sitting in front of the camera with the same calm, straightforward style that earned him millions of loyal fans. He explained exactly what happened. His voice carried more disappointment than anger. He talked about the stolen items and what their loss meant to him, not just as a creator or builder, but as a man who values integrity above almost everything. The fan response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments poured in from around the world. People shared their own stories of theft, offered support, and even offered to send replacement tools. It was powerful proof of the genuine community he had built, one rooted in mutual respect, understanding, and real human connection. Fellow mechanics especially felt the pain. They knew losing a torque wrench isn't just losing a tool, it's losing a trusted companion that's been through countless jobs with you. The theft changed things. Derek increased security, new locks, surveillance cameras. The once wide-open garage became more protected. The space still hummed with energy, but underneath it now lived a quiet layer of caution. Though the stolen items were never recovered, Derek moved forward. He stayed committed to his work, his family, and his viewers. He didn't let the theft break him. Instead, he turned it into another lesson in resilience. In the world he lives in, where every bolt and wrench carries a piece of his story, losing trust was the real theft. But rebuilding it became another challenge he accepted. Just like every car he's ever brought back to life, criticism and the pain of shifting expectations. As Vice Grip Garage grew bigger, so did the expectations. Derek Bieri built his channel on raw grit, dry humor, and complete honesty. Fans loved the unfiltered feel of his videos, the sound of engines coughing back to life, the sight of grease-covered hands pulling impossible machines out of junkyard graves. But growth brought criticism. And criticism brought doubt. Longtime viewers began voicing disappointment. The editing felt different. Videos seemed too long. Jokes and builds started feeling repetitive. Some missed the early no-frills garage energy. Others said the newer content lacked the soul of his original work. Comments piled up. Is he changing too much? Did he sell out? Why does everything feel the same? For someone who poured endless hours into every frame, those words cut deep. Derek never set out to become a YouTube star. He just wanted to share his love for cars and help others learn how to fix them. Every video cost real time, real effort, real money. He filmed under blazing sun, in freezing barns, through personal exhaustion. The goal was always connection, teaching, inspiring, showing people they could do it too, but no amount of passion can fully protect you from public disappointment, the pressure to constantly entertain, to innovate without alienating the core audience, began to weigh heavily. Derek tried new things, different humor, new cars, fresh formats. But it felt like walking a tightrope. Change too much and risk losing loyal fans. Stay exactly the same and get accused of being stagnant. Behind the scenes he wrestled with feeling unseen and underappreciated. Every view mattered. Every like mattered. But the harsh comments lingered longest that he started questioning whether the sacrifices were worth it, yet he never stopped. Derek kept turning wrenches. He kept pressing record. He thought of the people who fixed their first car because of him, the parents who watched with their kids, the viewers who found hope in second chances. That he decided to keep going, even when the criticism hurt, because at its core Vice Grip Garage was never about perfection. It was about hard work, hope, and proving that nothing is ever too broken to bring back. What's next for Derek? Lately Vice Grip Garage fans have noticed something subtle but important. Derek Bieri is posting less frequently. The long, high-energy builds that once dropped like clockwork now arrive further apart. He's still active on YouTube, but his presence feels quieter, more measured. This shift hasn't gone unnoticed. For a creator who once thrived on consistency, fewer uploads feel significant. Some wonder if the demands of the platform finally took their toll. Derek has always made it clear, family comes first. With a wife, 3 children, and a home to care for outside the spotlight, he may simply be pulling back to find balance again. The move to Tennessee was supposed to simplify life, yet building a homestead, managing content, running a garage, and protecting privacy are anything but simple. Others believe he's evolving. Perhaps Derek is searching for new ways to tell stories, or focusing on bigger projects that naturally take more time. After years of rushing under rusted frames, reviving junkyard finds, and documenting every step for millions, the pressure to constantly level up can become suffocating. It's common for creators like Derek to feel expected to keep escalating, even when it means burning out. Though his pace has slowed, Derek Bieri's impact has not faded. Vice Grip Garage remains one of YouTube's most respected and relatable automotive channels, with millions still discovering and rewatching the older videos. His unique mix of humor, heart, and hands-on grit continues to inspire both seasoned mechanics and everyday viewers who love a good comeback story, especially when it involves an old car roaring back to life. Derek's quieter rhythm in recent months hasn't gone unnoticed. But many fans see it not as decline, but as maturity. A man who has tasted real success and is now learning to protect life over hustle, family over fame, quality over quantity. He's no longer chasing views. He's protecting peace. The spark is still there, just tempered by experience. Still, a quiet question lingers behind every new, but less frequent, upload. Every missed week, every post that feels more reflective than urgent. Is Derek simply recharging before launching into a new creative chapter, or is he gently stepping back from the platform that helped make him a household name among gearheads worldwide? As fans, we watch, we wonder, we wait, knowing that whatever road Derek chooses next will be authentically his. We've watched him rescue forgotten cars and forgotten dreams. Now we watch and wait, wondering what ride he'll take next. Will he return with renewed fire and fresh ideas? Or is he quietly writing the final chapter of Vice Grip Garage? What do you think Derek's next move will be? Drop your wildest guesses, and your hopes, in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the real people behind the channels we love. See you in the next one.